So we have several legislative programs. One of them that will be coming up here really soon is the Legislative Priorities Poll. And that is a survey that we send out far and wide throughout the state of Missouri each fall to find out from the disability community which legislative topics and issues are important to them in the upcoming session. And then those poll results are compiled in a report that is then shared with the General Assembly and elected officials to guide their work in the upcoming session. And it is also posted on our website for people to refer to, or those who participated in the survey to see the results. The other one is legislative education project. And that is twofold. We have information on our website on a page titled Legislative Education Project that has different short videos and training modules that educate people on how the legislative process in Missouri works, how to build a successful relationship with a legislator, and how to provide testimony on behalf of or against a piece of legislation, and all those kind of things that are important in becoming involved in the legislative process in Missouri and becoming an advocate. And the other component of that is webinars that we offer during the legislative session that dive in a little bit deeper into what I just mentioned, explains how to become engaged in that process, make a difference for the disability community by advocating or by testifying against or on behalf of a certain piece of legislation, and then discussing any specific bills that have been filed that affect the disability community. And that's also where the legislative update ties in. That is a weekly publication that we offer throughout the session that summarizes any piece of legislation that has been filed that would affect the disability community should it be passed into law.
I don't know what it is about legislative advocacy, but people seem to feel very overwhelmed and anxious with the idea of communicating with this legislature. So I think having these resources are so important. So if you're out there listening, take a few minutes and go and check out these short webinars. I bet you it's going to seem so much easier once you take a minute and see how simple the process can be. I do want to ask about legislative updates. We're in the recess right now, but we'll be getting back into legislative action and advocacy coming up soon. It was a pretty active legislative session for the disability community last year. Are there things that you thought were real successes or real frustrations from last year? And are there things you're anticipating for the coming session?
What most people probably heard about is the passage of a couple of pieces of legislation that are relevant to the disability community, and those are the Ticket to Work legislation and then also the Employment First legislation. Those are probably the ones that were the most discussed throughout the session and were considered the biggest changes for the disability community. As far as priorities for next year or what I anticipate, it's hard to say at this point because we don't have the poll results. Those will be available probably around November when all the surveys have been evaluated and the report is done. And I have to stress that the Governor's Council on Disability is a non-partisan or bipartisan agency, so we don't guide advocacy or we don't tell people you should advocate for or against this bill. We just provide the disability community with the tools and the knowledge they need to have to do that for themselves. Everybody can decide for themselves what they want to pass or what they feel is important, and then go communicate that with their legislators. So that is what we see as our role.